For a lot of people who aren't interested in cryptids, one of the reasons why is because they think the only people who would ever believe in a yet unknown animal is someone unsophisticated or uneducated. There is definitely a negative stereotype that it's only crazies or backwards-minded people who imagine they see a cryptid, or in this case specifically, Bigfoot or Sasquatch as it's most commonly known. This is far from the truth. How? Well, for starters, many of the people who report sightings of cryptids, not just Sasquatch, are avid outdoorsmen. These are people who are experienced hunters, survivalists, or wildlife experts in various fields. Undoubtedly, these are not the type of people to be easily fooled or misidentify an animal, but you could reasonably argue that they could just simply be lying, or that they don't have the education to be able to know a hoax from a real, living, breathing creature. No doubt, quite a few reports are fake and made up, that goes without saying, but it is also impossible for every single person, totaling in the thousands every year globally, to be intentionally lying. This is where credible, educated scientists and researchers come in. You may be surprised to find out how many of them have analyzed the evidence and came away convinced the creature was actually real. This might actually apply to any number of cryptids, but for this video we're focusing on Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yeti, and its many other names worldwide. As our first example, we'll begin with a skeptic who ended up being a leader in Sasquatch research. The late Dr. Meldrum was a professor of anatomy and anthropology and later in life a tremendous Sasquatch believer. His scientific and level-headed ideas about the physical attributes of the creature and his detailed analysis of Sasquatch footprints made him a leader in Bigfoot research for many years. It may be hard to believe, but he didn't always believe in Bigfoot. Like most people, he thought it was all a joke. It wasn't until he was asked to take a look at some fingerprints and footprints that he changed his mind on the matter. Why? Because he was astonished by what he found. As an expert in his field, he immediately realized the footprints he was looking at were genuine, from a real flesh and blood animal, and totally and completely impossible to fake. Throughout his career, he referenced many footprint casts and how they exhibited such amazing detail, such as scars, toe curls, and perhaps most impressively, dermal ridges. Dermal ridges are the individual prints that cannot be artificially replicated and that are entirely unique to each individual. Meldrum made the point that even if the mini prints he referenced could be faked, which he firmly insisted they could not, that it would be unreasonable to assume a person would plant them perfectly over the course of miles far out in the wilderness where they were extremely unlikely to ever be found, and especially not without the person leaving behind their own prints in the process. It also is noteworthy that Meldrum collected these print castings from all over the world, and that they were all similar enough to be the same general species, but still unique and individual. In his years of research, his findings included casts that clearly showed injuries, hair patterns, a variety of ages, as well as weight distribution and other detailed and specific factors that indicated anything from gender to health. And as for physical evidence, consider the scientists who analyzed hair and blood samples on a 2000 episode of History Channel's Monster Quest. In the episode, several experts, including wildlife biologists and Dr. Meldrum himself, concluded that the hair and blood samples were similar to both human and chimpanzee DNA, but yet unique. So yes, some scientists, no matter their beliefs on Bigfoot, have in some cases had to face the uncomfortable facts about the possibility of its existence. Anthropologist Grover Krantz is one of the few scientists who is apparently unafraid of broadcasting his strong belief in Bigfoot, but sadly he faced a tremendous amount of unfair criticism from his peers. Interestingly, he had originally been a complete skeptic. In fact, he said he only gave Bigfoot a 10% chance of being real, but he would quickly change his mind. In 1969, after analyzing plaster casts from footprints in Washington, Krantz became a firm believer who, like Dr. Meldrum, also firmly believed the casts simply couldn't be faked due to the level of detail observed. After constructing biochemical models of the casts by calculating their distance, leverage, weight dynamics, and distribution, and comparing the data to the track's heel, ankle, and toe base, Krantz concluded that the footprints had been left by an animal about 8 feet tall and weighing roughly 800 pounds. Despite all his lifelong research and his impressive academic credentials, Dr. Krantz's published work on Sasquatch was largely dismissed and outright ignored without a glance by the vast majority of other scientists. Wildlife biologist Dr. John Bindernagel once said something that any Sasquatch researcher would surely agree with. He said, "The evidence doesn't get scrutinized objectively. We can't bring the evidence to our colleagues because it's perceived as taboo." Dr. Bindernagel used his expert background in ecology to study Sasquatch in British Columbia, where he primarily focused on historical artifacts and related witness testimony. He published several excellent scientific books on the topic in which he compares sightings with what is known of other great apes and gives insight on the likelihood of authenticity using relevant data. These are just a few scientists that I knew of before I started researching for this video. There's of course countless professionals and believers that range from everything from anthropologists, biologists, and primatologists, and of course many more. Even Dr. Jane Goodall expressed she was open-minded to the idea of Sasquatch existing. If there's anything a skeptic should know, it's that in any cryptid community, but maybe none more so than with Bigfoot, there are always distinct groups of believers. There will be ones who believe the creatures are supernatural or magical to some extent. There will be people like myself that look towards realistic science-based reasoning for and against a cryptid's existence, while also acknowledging that there are still many things left in the universe to be discovered that even in our modern-day world isn't fully understood yet. And then there are the people who will try to sell you whatever angle works best for them one minute to the next. Don't mistake brainless clickbait entertainment by imbeciles that want attention for the actual serious research being conducted by experts who have common sense. Unfortunately, with cryptids, you have to sift through a lot of nonsense in order to find something credible and intelligent. But it's out there if you know where to look. Are you familiar with any of the work done by these professionals mentioned? Or do you still think every Bigfoot believer, including scientists, are just full of scat? Let us know in the comments below, and we'll see you next time at the Crow's Nest.